Hi all, welcome to a new video and web application penetration testing tutorial. Today, we are going to have an overview to Kali Linux information gathering tools like Nmap and Zenmap. And we will demonstrate quickly two of the most common vulnerable applications, which are Metasploitable2 and DVWA vulnerable web application. So, let's start. These are the topics we are going to cover today. I will inform you more about Metasploitable2 vulnerable application, how to install and start using it to learn more about penetration testing and different cyber attacks. Then, we are going to discuss another example of common vulnerable web application called DVWA vulnerable web application or DVWA. You can use one of them or both to practice what you will learn during the course to become a good penetration tester. After that, I will teach you how to download and install Metasploitable2 using Oracle VirtualBox virtualization software. Finally, we will discuss one of the most common information gathering tools in Kali Linux, which is Nmap, and its GUI instance Zenmap. Additionally, we will briefly discuss what is meant by TCP three-way handshake and stealth scan. Let's start. As discussed before, to practice your knowledge, you will need a testing environment to learn well. That is why you will use Metasploitable2 vulnerable machine. Metasploitable2 is a testing environment, provides a secure place to perform penetration testing and security research. For your test environment, you need a Metasploit instance that can access a vulnerable target. We are going to describe the requirements and instructions for setting up Metasploitable2 vulnerable target and start your penetration testing journey. The easiest way to get a target machine is to use Metasploitable2, which is an intentionally vulnerable Ubuntu Linux virtual machine that is designed for testing common vulnerabilities. This virtual machine is compatible with VMware, VirtualBox, and other common virtualization platforms. Another example of vulnerable targets you will need to use during your learning journey is DVWA vulnerable web application or DVWA. DVWA is a PHP and MySQL web application that is DVWA vulnerable. Its main goals are to be an aid for security professionals to test their skills and tools in a legal environment, and also it is useful in helping web developers better understand the processes of securing web applications and aid teachers, students to teach or learn web application security in a classroom environment. Now let's move to the practical part of today's tutorial. We are going to demonstrate how to download and install Metasploitable2 vulnerable machine in Oracle VirtualBox. So, let's start. As we said, we will set up a testing machine to perform the tests with the help of tools of Kali Linux in a testing environment. So, step 1 is to download Metasploitable2 from the following link and as shown in the picture. Step 2 is to register by supplying your details on Rapid7 website, which is the issuing company for this vulnerable machine. And after filling the above form, we can download the software as shown in the picture. Step 3, after finishing your download, let's now import the downloaded machine into our virtualization software Oracle VirtualBox. First, click VirtualBox, then choose New as shown in the picture. Step 4, now click on Use an existing virtual hard disk file. Then, browse the file where you have downloaded Metasploitable2 and click Open as shown in the picture. Step 5, finally, a screen that will allow you to create a virtual machine pops up, so now, click on Create. And optionally, you can adjust the virtual machine settings, by increasing or decreasing the amount of RAM dedicated for the machine. But we will leave the default configuration for now. At last, you can now turn on your vulnerable machine and start using it. The default username is msfadmin and the password are msfadmin. And now, it's the time for discussing our information gathering tools Nmap and Zenmap. Nmap and Zenmap are useful tools for the scanning phase of ethical hacking in Kali Linux. Nmap and Zenmap are practically the same tool, however, Nmap uses command line while Zenmap has a GUI. So, for those who prefer to use a graphical tool rather than command line tools, you can use Zenmap, which meets your requirements. Nmap is a free utility tool for network discovery and security auditing. All systems and network administrators also find it useful for various tasks such as network inventory, managing service upgrade schedules, and monitoring host or service uptime. Nmap uses raw IP packets in novel ways to determine and gather information about which hosts are available on the network, what services those hosts are offering, which operating systems alongside with operating systems versions they are running, what type of packet filter or firewalls are in use, etc. But where can you find those two tools in Kali Linux? Well, you will have to click on Applications then. Under Information Gathering category you can choose either Nmap or Zenmap as shown in the picture. Now, let's start using Nmap and start our information gathering processes by detecting the operating system type and version of the target host, which will be Metasploitable2 machine in this example. Using the option "O" in Nmap, we will gather information about the type and the version installed on our target. The full command that we will use is Nmap-O and our target IP address, which is 192.168.1.101. But note that you may have a different IP address when you try running this command on your testing environment, according to your IP addressing configuration in your testing lab. As shown in the corresponding picture, how to use the above command when using Zenmap to see the same output we got from Nmap. Again, don't forget that IP address of the target may be different than this shown in our example. Nmap has lots of scan types you can use to gather as much information as you can about your target. And in case you want to gather information regarding the open TCP or UDP ports, then, you can use the following command in Nmap. Nmap-p, then specify the number of ports you want to scan. Here we will scan all the ports which start from 1 to 65,535, so we write 1-65,535, and then specify the speed of the scan by using the option "T", and finally specify the target IP address, which is 192.168.1.101 in our example. And for sure you can use the same command in the graphical tool Zenmap to get the same output as Nmap as shown in the figure below. Note that any green color ports are all the TCP open ports, but ports in the red color are all the closed ports. And as the list is too long because we are scanning all the ports, closed ports are not shown here in the picture. Now, let's talk about another network map scan type, which is the ping scan or "P". This scan type lists the hosts within the specified range that responded to a ping. This allows you to gather information and detect which computers are online, rather than which ports are open like we did in the previous scan. There are 4 methods you can use within Network Map for ping sweeping. The first method sends what is called an ICMP echo request, or as some people call ping request, which is a packet is sent to the destination system in order to detect whether if it's online or not. Therefore, if an ICMP echo reply is received, this means that the system is up, and the ICMP packets are not blocked. If there is no response to the ICMP ping, Network Map will try a TCP ping, to determine whether ICMP is blocked, or if the host is really not online. A TCP ping sends either a SYN or an ACK packet to any port, and by default port 80 on the remote system. If a REST, or a SYN ACK, is returned, this indicates the remote system is online. But if the remote system does not respond, then, either it is offline, or the chosen port is filtered, and thus not responding to anything. When you run an Nmap ping scan as the root user, then the default is to use the ICMP and ACK methods. In case of non-root users, they will use the connect method, which attempts to connect to a machine, waiting for a response, and tearing down the connection as soon as it has been established. This is similar to the SYN-ACK method for root users, but the difference is that this one establishes a full TCP connection. And the ICMP scan type can be disabled by setting "P" and 0, and it's important to note that is a 0 and not uppercase O, because both looks almost the same. Before we discuss the last type of network map scans, let's now discuss briefly what is meant by TCP3 handshake. A three-way handshake is a method used in a TCP/IP networks to create a connection between a local host or a client and a server. It is a three-steps method that is designed to allow both communicating ends to initiate and negotiate the parameters of the network TCP socket connection at the same time and before data such as HTTP and SSH is transmitted over the network. Multiple TCP socket connections can be transmitted in both directions simultaneously. Some people refer to three-way handshake as a TCP handshake or SYN/SYN-ACK, and they also requires both the client and server to exchange SYN or synchronization and ACK or acknowledgement packets before actual data communication begins. In fact, its name originates from the three messages transmitted by TCP before a session between the two ends is initiated. For example, it supports communication between a web browser on the client side and a web server every time a user navigates the internet. Finally, let's talk on stealth scan. It is also known as half-open scan, as it doesn't complete the TCP three-way handshake we discussed earlier. Here, an attacker sends a synchronization packet or SYN packet to the target. If a SYN/ACK frame is received back, then it's assumed the target would complete the connection and this indicates that the port is now listening. If a reset or a RST is received back from the target, then it is assumed the port isn't active or is closed and therefore the connection can't be established. Now to see the SYN scan in practice, you can use the parameter -s and S in Nmap. Following is the full command. Nmap -s and S, then we specify the scan speed by using the option -T and the speed of 4 and finally specify the IP address of our target which will be 192.168.1.101 in our case. And the following picture shows how to use this command in Zenmap. And now, we have discussed all our topics for today. I wish you have got good understanding of today's tutorial. Looking forward to hear from you if you have any comments. Thanks.